everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Grayman. We're going to be answering some questions about OCD. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you have a question that you would like me to answer on the next show, please leave it below any of the videos and let's get started. So this is the part 2 of the previous show, and if your message was not replied to in previous show, it will probably be replied in this one. So the first question I have is dealing with themes when you're so deep into the theme, you can't just say, yeah, so what, and kind of move on. How to deal with that, because the fear is keeping the person stuck. So, you have to pull out somehow, okay? So if you can't pull out by saying, so what, I'm not dealing with this, and like really let the theme go, let the thought go, at least delay it. So, okay, this thought is too close to me right now. I can't seem, I'm not able to let go of the reassurance of analyzing, but I can delay reassurance for a few minutes at least. You can always do a few minutes and work up from there. So today, every time you get the push to seek reassurance, you're going to delay it, say 15 minutes. Then tomorrow, every time you get a push to seek reassurance, you're going to delay it, say 2 hours. And then keep going until you can delay it for a day. And then after that, you will have a much easier time letting the thought go. So next question is about intrusive thoughts returning. First of all, when people say, because some people were asking me, what is the difference between intrusive thoughts and OCD thoughts? There is no difference. This is just wordplay. Some people will call an OCD thought OCD thought. Some people will call an OCD thought intrusive thought. If you actually dissect the term intrusive, right? Any OCD thought is intrusive. So it's the same thing, right? So when people say intrusive thoughts versus OCD thoughts, it's as if the person has OCD, that's what they mean. Can a person who doesn't have OCD have intrusive thoughts? Absolutely. And if they pay attention to those thoughts, and if they are anxious to begin with, they can actually develop OCD. So intrusive thought is a thought that really serves no actual purpose in solving, and it's an annoying thought that you feel like you have to solve, and everybody gets those from time to time, but people who don't have OCD, they don't react the same way to them. So even though they might react for a few minutes or something like that, but they don't keep reacting over a long period of time, and it doesn't start a compulsion. So, but if you already do have OCD, all of your thoughts are intrusive thoughts because they're intruding on your life. So anyways, back to the question. I had pure OCD with intrusive thoughts 2 years back, and I didn't know it was OCD back then. It returned back last month, more violent with excessive intrusive thoughts all the time. Is it normal for intrusive thoughts to return, or is it more dangerous one? I want to recover fast. I don't want it to return again. Well, just because it returned, it doesn't really mean anything. Your reaction is, the thought can come into your mind. Thoughts come into any person's mind, whether they have OCD or not. But the reason why other people don't develop OCD is because they don't have the reaction. So it came back, fine. Refuse the reaction, the thought will go away. Next time your brain sends you a random weird thought, right? Not giving it validity. Not analyzing. Even if for a few minutes you analyzed it because you kind of were caught off guard, stop yourself. No more. This is OCD. I'm not restarting this. And that kind of attitude guarantees that you will never get OCD again. And then over time your brain reprograms, and it doesn't really expect you to have that strong of a reaction, and it doesn't develop OCD even from like a minute reaction. So there's two things here, I can't tell you that you will never get a weird thought or an intrusive thought when you get over OCD, right? For the rest of your life, right? People get weird thoughts, and they did a study. I think I mentioned it in the last video as well. But they did a study that the thoughts of people who do have OCD and of people who don't have OCD are actually exactly the same in the beginning. So people who don't have OCD also get weird thoughts from time to time, but they don't put validity in them, and because they don't put validity, they go away. So intrusive thoughts, weird thoughts will happen, but your reaction is what matters. If you react to it as it is, just a silly thought, who cares? It's never going to stick to you. It's never going to develop into an OCD thought. But if you're reacting like this is really important and really matters, then it becomes a problem. So next question is, hi Ali, thank you for everything. Your videos are really helpful, helping me understand OCD and how to deal. My main theme is harm. I also tend to lose sight of reality. It's like I constantly question if I did something wrong or not. It's like I don't know what I do anymore. My anxiety just gets so high. Can you please advise on how to deal with this, please? Thanks again for all your videos and your time. Well, God bless. Well, thank you very much. This is really sweet. And in terms of what to do, just disregarding. So a thought comes in that you're doing something wrong, a harm theme, who cares? Disregarding it. It has to do with my theme, therefore I'm not paying attention to it. I don't care how strong I feel about it, like how strong the feelings are, how real it seems, how much guilt I have, how you can, if it's like a false memory thing, you can even have images associated with it. All of it doesn't matter. Those are just the tricks your mind uses to get you back into reaction, because your mind wants you to react with fear. Your mind wants you to protect yourself through reassurance, because your mind wants you to stay safe, right? Because the mind doesn't understand that this situation is not a real danger, that it's not a real fear. You know what I mean? It sends you a thought in order to see if something is here, like in this particular thought, is there something important that you can protect yourself from, And that's why we get all kinds of weird thoughts all the time, right? So it's just the mind is throwing random things at you, But if you react, it gets stuck on it. So just controlling the reaction. So this question is about severe OCD. What can bring on severe OCD? I have always had anxiety, but this is the first time in my life I have suffered from overwhelming intrusive thoughts and false memory. Before, I used to only wash my hands too much and worry about contamination, but I could handle it and live with it. It did not bother me or affect my life in the way this form of OCD does. I want my life back. I want to control my own mind back and confidence back. How can I do this? Again, it's the reaction. I find that generally when I'm working with clients and, obviously I'm seeing their recovery process, recovering from physical obsessions and compulsions is always easier than from puro. And that's because, say for example, if you're washing your hands, you can, it's none of it is easy, okay? But you can much easier stop yourself from washing one more time, because it's a physical action. You have to, actually like wash your hands, right? Rather than stopping a thought, because the process of stopping a thought and the thought happening is so much faster than any kind of physical action. So that's and I find that generally, it's the more you analyze, the worse it gets. So you're getting this intrusive thoughts, false memory, whatever, or any kind of OCD thought, right? And you're reacting, and the more you react, the more the thoughts come in. So when you were washing hands, it's like you can kind of manage it, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, you went too far, and then you can slide. It's an easier process, I find. Not for everybody, but for a lot of people, it's a much easier process, So it's, like, you have to disregard. You have to move on from reacting the way you do. Because that's the only way you can get your mind back. Because right now, your mind thinks that this situation is important. And it only thinks that because you kept reacting to it as if it was important. So in order to change that, you have to change how you are reacting to the mind when it sends you these thoughts. Otherwise, you'll just keep going around and around. Even if you solve one thought, it goes to another thought. So it just goes from one to another to another. So it's just not reacting, not paying attention to the thoughts, no matter how severe they are, how bad they seem, just disregarding it. And if you can't disregard, if you can't say no to it, right? Like what I was talking about in the first question, at least delaying it. So you're learning more and more to disregard. Same thing with, if you guys are struggling with physical compulsions, you can do the same thing with physical compulsion. Okay, I feel like I have to wash my hands again. I'm going to wait a few minutes before I do that. Or I'm going to wash my hands like OCD wants me to, but I'm going to wash for slightly less amount of time. So even if you can't bring yourself to fully refuse the compulsion, you're altering it to make it less than you would do. So you're still showing your mind that you are in control, even in the smallest way, but it helps and it builds you up for later to show your mind that you're more in control. And the person is saying, it's gotten so bad that I feel like leaving the house is going to cause me my new false memory, or have an interaction and then I guess create a false memory and things like that. So first of all, this is something I experienced firsthand. I stopped going outside, when my OCD got really bad. It did get that bad. And it just makes it worse, because you're falling into the reassurance. You need to be able to face the thought, okay, yeah, you know what, and prepare yourself. I'm going to go outside. When I go outside, I'm going to get an OCD thought. When I get an OCD thought, I'm going to use it as exposure and response prevention, preventing the response of fear. I'm going to disregard the thought, and then I'm going to do it again and again and again until this thing goes away. And really taking control of the situation, not choosing not to be a victim anymore. Because you're fighting against something that doesn't exist. The danger that you think exists actually doesn't exist. And what ifs that you are fearing are also non-existent. So showing your mind that it doesn't matter to you, showing your mind that you are in control. And the only way you can do it is by just pushing through like a tank. Like imagine you are a tank and you're just plowing through. Imagine you're a tank in the middle of, I don't know, like a rainforest, and you're just plowing through the forest. No matter what it is, you're just mowing it down. And you just keep going until you fully recover like this. And just disregard the feelings. I know the feelings feel really real, the guilt, the what ifs, but I'm telling you, it is all false. You need to disregard in order to recover. Because the more you pay attention, the more your mind's going to think it's important. And you're just going around and around and around. And you can go around like this for years and years. And the only reality to these thoughts is that you're losing your actual real life. You're losing time that you could have spent with your loved ones, having fun, doing things, being productive. You're losing that time. That part is real. The OCD stuff is false, but what you're losing in real life is actually real. So, and that's really, this realization was why I stopped seeking reassurance, because after years of seeking reassurance, I just understood that it wasn't working. It wasn't making a difference. I was going from thought to thought, so I'd get reassurance from one thought and it would turn into another, so there's no point. So the next question, it's actually a set of questions. How can I stop analyzing? I keep questioning even if I have OCD. I keep thinking, well, if these things I'm worried about wasn't true or something to worry about, then why would I worry about it so much? And the person's afraid that they will never get that final full reassurance. So all of these things are kind of very common traits of OCD. How can you stop analyzing? Little by little, just pulling out of it. So, okay, I'm going to analyze a little bit less. Say if you feel like you absolutely have to, put a limit on it, okay? So if you can't put a limit on it on how much you can analyze, say, okay, you know what, for the next hour, no matter what, I'm going to put my attention elsewhere. And actually make it, okay, so from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, I'm not analyzing in any way. Then the rest of the day I will analyze. Then the next day from, 12 to 2. So you're increasing it, because if you are at a level 10 or even 11 out of 10, so to speak, right? It's hard to pull back. So doing something would help. That's how you stop. In terms of questioning if you even have OCD, again, most people who have OCD worry, what if it's not OCD? Because having that confidence that it's OCD is reassurance, So the what if What if I did something? What if I did something wrong? What if this is not OCD? This is the same what if we're talking about, you know? So the more you wonder, the more you try to analyze, let me think if this is OCD. I can tell you right now, yes, it is OCD. Anybody who's listening to this show has OCD. If they're doubting that they have OCD, they do have OCD. The only person or the only people who are not, who don't have OCD who are listening to the show right now are people who know they don't have OCD and they probably have somebody in their life, their loved one, who does have OCD. And those people are not questioning whether they have OCD. So if you're doubting whether you have OCD or not, yes, you have OCD. You need to do the work on disregarding. You do the work on disregarding, you will start to feel better. It will start to improve. But you do the analyzing, you do the reassurance seeking, the compulsions, it will start to get worse and worse. You know? Because that part of the mind, it's very mechanical in its operation. You know, like I mean, I talk to people every day, and I can tell you that there's not a lot of wiggle room. There's not a lot of difference between how people talk about their OCD. It's all pretty much the same. The person went and did reassurance, they're gonna feel worse. The person powered through, they're gonna start to feel better. You know. And there's of course like the additional things where, you know, once they start to feel better, the mind starts throwing something else at them because the mind needs more time to readjust, and it has to be, you know, a continuous cycle of refusing and all of that. But in the basic thing of it is, the more attention you give to the thoughts, the more you pay attention, the worse they're gonna get. The more you pay attention to something else and switch your attention to something else, by choice, right? So you can't say, well, I can't do it unless I get reassurance that it's okay. That's just reassurance, right? You have to switch without having that proof. So it will feel like you're taking a chance. You're not really, but it will feel that way. And then in terms of the final reassurance, if you don't get the final reassurance, you will be the first one. You know. So because anybody who has OCD, and once they recover, they look back at the thoughts and they're like, wow, it's silly. You know. The thing is, it's not going to be like a final reassurance the way you're viewing it now, though, because right now you're viewing it as something very important, and you need to have that question answered. You know, and you need that final kind of stamp of approval that this is OCD and it's not real and all of that, right? When you recover, you look back at it and you're like, wow, that's such a silly thought. Why would I even think that? I didn't need to solve all the details, you know? So you don't even feel like you need to know the answer to each individual little detail that you couldn't solve before, right? It's more you're saying, nah, the whole thing doesn't matter, you know? Because you understand that it's OCD. You understand that, you know, it's all a made-up situation, you know. So, but it's the analyzing, guys. You know, it's however you can, even stopping a little bit, it will make a difference. So, and then what you said too about feeling like you can't trust yourself and losing confidence and all of that, that comes from analyzing. You know, that comes from reassurance. Because the more you're saying, okay, no, this is OCD, I'm disregarding, you know, like, and then, but then you try to say, the mind throws back at you, well, how can you trust yourself? Well, how do you know? You know, so it's all of that conversation shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? It's like the more you talk to your mind and try to convince your mind that this is an OCD thought, the more questions it's going to throw at you, because that part of the mind is reactionary. It's not cognitive in the same way that that the real you, so to speak, is, right? It can't be convinced, right? It can only be shown in action. So disregarding, even though it's a mental action, still you're making a choice to disregard. Your mind sees that choice. It also sees that at the same time, okay, you made the choice. You're still safe. Nothing actually bad happened. Okay, it's going to send you less feelings that are associated with this thought. And then less and less and less. And as the feelings go away, the logic starts to come in. So if you've ever asked for reassurance from people around you about this situation, whatever it is that you're worried about, right? Or any of the themes or any situations, really, right? um, you can see that they look at it logically, and to them they're like, come on, what are you talking about, right? But to you it seems very, very different, right? And I'm not talking like you specifically, right? But I mean, this is kind of common. It was the same thing with me. Like I was, asking people, and everybody's like, this doesn't even make sense. What are you worried about? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so worried. So it seems different to the person suffering, because when you're suffering, you're purely looking at it through the emotions. So you're not really able to see um, the actual reality of the situation through logic, because you're clouded with these emotions. So when you recover from the emotions, when those emotions go away, all you're left with is logic. So you start to view it how everybody else is viewing it. So next question is, hi Ali, why does intrusive thoughts make you imagine your fear? For example, if you fear you have killed someone in your past, your mind starts to imagine yourself committing the crime. Yeah, it's just really how OCD goes. Images are very common when associated with false memory. Not only with false memory, right? With any kind of OCD, you could have like vivid images, but with false memory especially, it's just very common. It's kind of like a symptom of OCD. It's just when you're at that very, very high level of anxiety, your mind can create an image as well of how it could have happened, or anything like that. So next question is, hi Ali, I love listening to you. I have harm OCD and I have fear about my dreams. I am scared of what if they come true. And it's, again, the same thing, that the fear is there, but it's just disregarding it, just powering through. And OCD and dreams is a very common theme generally. People have dreams and they're afraid, what if they come true? People have dreams and they're not sure if it was a dream or not. People have a dream and they think, why would I have this dream? It means I'm a bad person. In all kinds of different ways. It's actually a very common thing. And that's just because your mind is working 24/7. So because these thoughts are on, you're on such high alert with these thoughts. It's actually coming to you in dreams because it's there with you all the time. It becomes kind of all encompassing. So it's just, again, just disregarding, seeing that this is a common thing, there's nothing here, and you need to stop paying attention to it. So next question is asking yourself the same questions a type of a compulsion? Yeah, and I mean, that is the compulsion, right? With pure O, especially, that's very common. So it's, if you're asking yourself any questions about your theme, the theme that you're having when you have OCD, right? You don't need to dissect that theme at all. It has nothing to do with you. So any question you are asking about the theme, anything you're trying to solve about the theme, is already OCD reassurance. So it's just disregarding it. The theme comes into your mind, a question about the theme comes into your mind, you're disregarding it. Not analyzing it, not trying to figure it out, because the more you analyze, you're coming from a position of fear. So you're showing your mind that you're very afraid of this thought. And the more fear you show, the more your mind is going to send it to you. So it's better just to not even get into it. Yeah, having a thought, who cares? Not paying attention. I'm moving. I'm choosing now to move on. Choice does not require proof. So you're choosing to move on because you're the one in control. You are the leader. You're making the choice as a leader. So next question is, hi Ali, I have a problem and it's getting worse because of hearing problems. I could use your guidance. I hang on to every word that other people say. I make up things that people never said about one of my OCD themes. So I must be able to clearly hear what everyone is saying. If I can't hear what is going on, or if I'm focused on what is going on, like a TV or radio playing in the background, that gives my OCD power to make believe that something was said that in reality was not. And yeah, all of this is very, very common. So what you need to do is you need to stop asking, right? Oh, what did you say? Or let me try to piece together what this person said. I didn't quite hear it correctly. Did you say this or that? When you said this or that, what did you mean? Right? All of these things, and the analyzing, and I actually get a lot of questions when I do the show, well, what did you mean? Did you mean this or that? Because again, it's reassurance, you know? So the more reassurance you seek, the worse you will feel. You know, that feeling like you need to solve it already tells you that what you're experiencing is OCD. And now at this point, you need to do the work to disregard it. You know, even though it feels like, well, if they said what they said, what I think, what I'm worried about, they said, then my whole world's gonna come crashing down, and I need to know, and I need to figure it out. You know, still choosing to disregard, because that feeling again is very, very common. I mean, that's really kind of how most people who have OCD feel, is if their thought comes true, then the world will end for them, basically, you know? So it's seeing that, but choosing not to react to it, choosing to disregard. This is the end of the show. Thank you guys so much for your questions. Please keep them coming. I will be back on Wednesday. I will have a video on Tuesday where under which you can leave a question, but you can really leave them on questions under any of the videos, and I'll get them through YouTube anyways. So I will answer those on Wednesday. Thank you again for listening. You can always visit youhaveocd.com for more information. There's the recovery program there with me. There's ebooks. There's articles. On this channel and on youhaveocd.com, there's lots of information to help you recover. So please check that out. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.